Well, welcome to the Just Jim radio show. We're here today to bring some inspiration, some information, ideas, concepts, hopefully some that might stir you up a little bit or cause you to look a little bit more carefully at what's going on, or just to uplift you a bit, to feel yourself a little more fully or experience life a little more openly, to experience some freedom, some fulfillment, and of course, always some fun. Fun's important. And don't forget a little bit of food, all those F's. Food's a wonderful thing. Food for the mind, food for the spirit. A lot of different things happening here. And we do that with interviews, we do that with chit chats. I carry on sometimes once in a while, sharing about different ideas. Today we have Jean-Marc Girard here today with us. He's an author of The Integral Way and is a psycho-integral therapist. He's been training therapists in the integral process for over 30 years and 50 years of experience in the field of health and wellness, and a varied gentleman, an artist, a musician, a life pilgrim. I like that. Welcome, Jean-Marc.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Yes. Life pilgrims. It's never finished, huh? I mean, even with all. That's right. Even with all that we've gone through, there's still today, and there's still life happening, and there's still a learning process and a growing process. So happy to be here with you, Jim. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm glad to have you here. Surely. And you say a musician, having just yesterday heard one of your songs as you shared it with us, and so enjoy the expression of someone who's able to bring themselves to others, bringing that vibration of the guitar you play so well and the words that you bring together with it to bring a message, to bring a vibration, bring an inspiration. We're here to talk about some other things, but wanted to just touch on the beauty of your music and the way that you bring it to us.
Yes, well, music, what can I say? I mean, it's a universal language, and it's so, I'm so fortunate to be able to share that way with so many. And so, again, thank you for the opportunity to also have shared that with you and your congregation yesterday. And knowing that it is, these are challenging times, and arts and music have always been a way to allow for the collective soul, to speak and to be present and to be helpful, through these times, which create anxiety, it creates fear, and that's normal. And so, yes, I appreciate having this tool, and I appreciate very much being able to share it.
It does speak so clearly. You can feel it, you can hear it. It speaks to each individual differently. And speaking of ways, having written Integral Way, and so tell us about the Integral Way. Tell me what that's all about.
Well, it's a synthesis of my own life path. And so I have been, as we all have, on our individual journeys. And my life path has brought me, through an experience when I was about 21 years old. It was like a St. Francis type of experience where my heart opened up and I became very aware that I was much more than just this individual who was trying to somehow find his way in life, but I was part of life, and that in being in an open state of receptivity, I was able to connect and feel at one, with life around me, with those I would meet, and especially with the deep inner intimacy within my own being. And to know that the more that I stopped, the more that I listened, the more that I connected with this deep inner, presence of being, this intelligence, this loving connection, with myself, with life, And yes, it was something which transformed my way of seeing and brought me then to want to share that with others. And so I, became a teacher. And first, it was the Eastern philosophies that spoke to me because it spoke of us being a part of something much bigger. And through yoga, through the Buddhists, the Zen Buddhists, through becoming aware that we are not just confined little units, but that we are shining, energetic beings, spiritual beings. And that became very much a concrete reality for me. And I began to share that in many, many ways. I became a healer. Therapeutic touch has been a beautiful approach, which is simple and able to be shared by so many. And so I've been teaching this approach for, well, a good, 45, 50 years. And that brought me into massage therapy, and it brought me into understanding the body-mind connection. And then that evolved into psychosynthesis, which is a beautiful psychotherapeutic approach that sees that we are not just a human psyche, but we are a spiritual being. But that our human psyche, of course, needs to be cared for. And that there are ways that we can learn how to answer the question, who am I, that can really be helpful to our well-being and the well-being of those that we live with and that we share our lives with. And then that brought me into teaching this more integrative approach, to health and well-being, which I call the Integral Way. And I've been doing that, for a good 35 years in Montreal, and mainly in French. And so, je suis français, québécois de Montréal. And I have been teaching in French for the past, 40, 45 years.
That's beautiful. I love some of the things that you were talking about. I'm hearing you talk about the full spectrum of our being on so many levels.
Yes.
To integrate it, to have that integral way, through that. And recently, one of the things that have been really coming up for me in my meditations and I've been talking about in my classes is spiritual intimacy.
Yes.
And it feels like what you're talking about is that discovery that you made is what I'm sensing or explaining as this spiritual vulnerability or this spiritual intimacy of surrendering into our being in such a way that we're able to feel that freedom that allows us to discover so much more than when our attention is placed around us, and we can find that and then bring that into our lives, integrate it into our lives, not just into our being, but into our lives. And so it sounds as if you've got a full spectrum of experiences and history that is helping you bring what you've come to discover into expression and therefore share it for people to be able to experience.
Yes, exactly. And what you call that spiritual intimacy is so vital. And here we are in a situation, where we are being forced to isolate ourselves, to take time to stop the normal activities of our lives. And what an opportunity, to allow us to then take that space, take that time, and go to a place within ourselves, even if we don't know exactly how to do that. There's an innate intelligence there that our beings, that life itself wants us to be whole, wants us to connect more deeply, wants us to open our hearts, open our awareness and consciousness, that we belong to something much more profound, much greater than just our little human perception. And when we do that, then we have a personal experience. It's no longer something that we understand intellectually, but it's something that becomes innately a part of our lived out experience. when I had what I would call, my transformative experience, my senses opened up completely. The more that I go into that deep inner intimate space within myself, the more that I become much more incarnate, much more embodied, much more present with myself, with life. I feel much more alive when I am in that state of communion with myself and with life and with others. So yes.
Yeah, it's interesting that whole process that we're in the middle of, and
Yes.
I was been talking lately about everything that you're looking for that you haven't found is in the unknown. And it
That
sounds like a simple statement to make, but so
right.
frequently we're looking for answers where we already have answers. And what I hear you saying is taking the time to be rather than trying to figure it out with your mind, and let your being be infused into your thinking, your feeling, your actions, your decisions. And this time we're somewhat on some level, of course, we know nothing forces us. It's not being imposed upon us. It's been created for us to experience it. We have this opportunity to take the time. Something I say frequently, and pertains so well to what you're saying, is that we used to be trained in defensive driving when we came to railroad crossings, which we don't have as many anymore as we used to stop, to look,
Yes.
to listen. We stop and look within and listen to our being. We can bring that into our thoughts, our feelings, our actions. We can begin to discover our truth slightly different than we have before. And right now, with this situation in our world, it sounds like something that we all need a lot more of, is a little different view and bringing a little bit more of who we are into the world in a different way.
So true, so true. And there's a song that speaks to that, and I sung it, with your congregation. I sang it at your church, and it's "Be still and know that I am that I am. Oh, be still and know that I am that I am. Can you hear me calling, calling your name? Can you feel me drawing, drawing you to me? So be still and know that I am." It is that intimacy. And we have someone in Canada who has been very active in trying to awaken our awareness to our relationship with nature and how important it is to allow our hearts to open and to have intimacy with life. And that is the way that our consciousness is going to evolve to a place where we are living in harmony with life instead of feeling that we have to somehow struggle, through our lives. And yes, that relationship, because that is the root of all, is how do we connect and create intimacy in a relationship with ourselves, with those that are, in our intimacy, in our closeness, in our daily lives, but also with our environment, with the world, and with that which is beyond, that which is beyond what we can know and understand fully, but that we can experience when we allow ourselves to open and experience.